We'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate everyone being here. I'm Jim Muehling with the Community Foundation, and I appreciate you being here with us. I just want to thank a number of people, particularly the NPA, the group sponsored with the United Way, the City of Bloomington, and the Community Foundation work together to support with the NPA, and appreciate their work in putting this together. I just wanted to let you know, as far as the refreshments, feel free anytime, want a cup of coffee or whatever. Restrooms are right outside the door here to your right as you go outside the door, so you'll know where those are. There's some sheets on your table. The schedule for today, Dr. Seiler is going to be first, and Brian Yaley. We're going to conclude with a panel. So any questions that you may have, during the day, you may want to go ahead and jot those down. I have other sheets too. You can put questions on the back if you need to. But if you have questions for the panel, and it tells you on that sheet who will be sitting on the panel along with Dr. Seiler. So if you have questions, and then I'll pick those up, and I'll moderate the situation so we have that to be the concluding activity of today. And a couple questions come up about the Community Foundation and our involvement with the NPA in things like this, and as far as planned giving. We do planned giving at the Community Foundation. They have done it for a number of years. It's a time-intensive and sometimes expensive process. So what we have, fortunately, on our board are a number of planned giving folks. We have attorneys that we have on our board as well as that work with our people, and can save you some money and some time if you have questions. Particularly, that's where the partnership working with the Community Foundation. Thus far, of course, it's not where it needs to be, our planned giving program. We're trying to grow it, just like you are, because planned giving oftentimes, like endowments, really create an income stream and support over the long haul. Thus far, there's been 21 planned gifts come to fruition at the Community Foundation, over $2.5 million, and that involved 12 agencies as well as the Community Foundation. 12 agencies benefited from those planned gifts. Right now we have 33 more in place. Over $9 million will come through those 33 planned gifts, and 19 agencies are also involved with those gifts in conjunction with the Community Foundation. So many people name in their planned gifts, oh, I'll give the Community Foundation X dollars, I want to give this agency, this agency, this agency. Some that we do have are folks that don't give us anything and will end up giving 5 agencies, which is fine, in their planned gifts. But the reason they're on our radar working with us is because they have perhaps a donor-advised fund with us and whatnot. So that's the reason that we're involved in the planned giving, is really to save you time and hopefully save you some heartache or some headache and some money if you get involved with someone that is considering a planned gift and want some assistance in that regard. So that's where the attorneys come in, and Brian Yaley, who will be here second. Brian's on our board, and Brian's real cheap because I just call him and say, Brian, I need help. And Brian provides it. Same thing that it'll do for you. So enough of that. Again, we're very fortunate to have another terrific leadoff hitter here, Dr. Tim Seiler. I was fortunate to go through the School of Philanthropy and the fundraising school and get my certification. Tim taught a number of those classes, and he was named the Outstanding Fundraiser of the Year in 2014 by the professional organization. He's the former director of the fundraising school at Indiana University, the Lilly School of Philanthropy. During his time, a lot of things came about. He created the system for professionalization of fundraising with certification for fundraisers that you go through, and you get the number of classes, and I know a number of you people have been through the school itself. He speaks all over. We were talking about where he's been. He doesn't do as much international travel as he has, but he still does some. all over the United States. He's been to Texas recently, just got back from Cleveland and is leaving for Austin. So he moves around, and a lot of folks. He serves as editor-in-chief of the Excellence in Fundraising Workbook series. He's authored the book Developing Your Case for Support, as well as Achieving Excellence in Fundraising. And I can't thank him enough for being here, and it is indeed a pleasure to me introduce Dr. Tim Seiler.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. It's a little warm in here, as Jim mentioned when I first got here, so I'm going to take this off. Is this on? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the invitation to be here. And many years ago, I lived in Bloomington, and in those many years, well, it's really changed. When I came into town today, for a little bit, I was a little lost. I thought, this doesn't look familiar. I was following the directions off of MapQuest, but I still wasn't sure I was in the right place. So lots of changes here in Bloomington. How many of you were here for the seminar when Gene Temple spoke about the ethical will and the philanthropic autobiography? Okay. If you were here for that session, could several of you give me what you remember from that? High points or key items that you remember from the ethical will, the philanthropic autobiography? Who can give us some thoughts on that?
I got the papers.
You have the papers. Okay. Did you do anything with them?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I wanted to
Okay.
hear you today.
Okay. Well, I can't do your ethical will. And I really can't do your philanthropic autobiography. Anyone else do anything with that? Or what do you remember about what he said? Yeah.
I think it was basically just being able to have conversations with people about what mattered to them and what had a lasting impact on their life, and maybe what would inspire them
Okay.
to make a lasting contribution.
All right. Thank you. What was your comment? Same thing. Okay. You were going to comment?
I was going to say it's sort of the proactivity of it. It's taking time to sit down and evaluate these things that otherwise play into the larger equation for plan giving.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And normally we think, anybody else? Any other comments? I mean, normally we think about a will and we think about a bequest in a will. We're thinking about physical property, right? Or we're thinking about physical assets. We're thinking about money. And what are we going to leave to the kids, and what are we going to leave to a nonprofit organization, and so on. But the ethical will was really much more about what are the values that you want to live on beyond you. Those don't have anything to do with finances necessarily. But it's been my experience that one of the challenges in this field relative to planned giving is that when you talk to people about planned giving, often the first thing they think about is, oh, that means we're going to talk about death. And a will and a bequest in a will is about death. And that's so people don't want to talk about that, right? I mean, one of the things that we're always reluctant to talk about, and a lot of times we don't like to talk about money at all, so we won't talk about money with often even with our family. We don't like to talk about certain other sort of taboo subjects in polite company. You know, some of you probably were brought up on these kind of rules of polite behavior. You don't talk about certain things in polite company. One of those was money, and one of those was death. Now, there are two or three others, which I really maintain have gone out the window. If you haven't heard this before, when I was a kid and growing up, you said, you know, in polite company, you don't talk about politics, religion, sex, or money. Well, I think there's only one left. And we're pretty open about everything else, but we're still reluctant to talk about money. And when it comes to the passing on of that money, we're still very reluctant to talk about it. But planned giving means a whole lot more than that. There are all kinds of planned gifts that can be made. I know you heard some of this from presenters the first session, and you'll hear more today when Brian is here, and then you'll probably hear this from some of the people on the panel as well. But planned giving is simply about making decisions while you can about what's going to happen to literally your estate. Okay? And there are all kinds of planned gifts. The will and